So you have an emergency in your rental property. How do you deal with it? One of the biggest things you need to understand is when you own a rental property, chances are you're gonna have an emergency. It's just going to happen. You're gonna have a disaster, whether it's a natural disaster or it's something that was man-made. You are gonna have these things happen and there is nothing you can do about it. Now, the one thing that you can do is you control how you act when it happens, how you assess the situation, and then the actions you take. So the first thing you always want to remember when you're doing this is, yes, it can get frustrating. It can be upsetting. This is your rental property. You bought it. You're paying the mortgage on it. And you may think that someone is basically messing up your property or they're doing something. That's not always the case. And you always got to make sure you understand the full situation and know that, remember, when you buy a rental property, chances are you're probably buying a property that's not brand new. So you're buying something that may be 1, 5, 10, 20, 50 years old. Imagine buying a rental car that's 50 years old and getting upset when the tire blows out. It's something that's just gonna happen and it's part of being in the rental property business. One thing you always gotta remember is that you own a business when you own a rental property, and you've gotta treat it like a business. You cannot get emotional, you can't have knee-jerk reactions, you've always gotta understand that this is part of the business. Now, one thing you never wanna do is never get upset at the person who's giving you the message. Meaning if the tenant calls you and they are upset because maybe the house is flooding, the last thing you wanna do to inflame the situation is you get upset at the tenant for calling you at 1 in the morning or 10 at night or on the weekend, right? They are living in the property, so they have an emotional attachment to this property. You've gotta always respect that. The next thing you wanna do is you always gotta remember that you've gotta stop the problem. Getting upset at each other is not gonna solve anything. If it's one thing that I've learned from being an airline pilot, and I talk about this in some of my other videos, is I talk about the fact that you always have to, first of all, identify the problem, right? So if water's coming out the front door and it's flooding the yard is not the problem. The fact that you may have a broken pipe upstream, that's the problem. So make sure that, first of all, you identify what the problem is before you start jumping into action to fix things. Always make sure that you're fixing the actual problem and not something downstream of the problem. Next thing you gotta do is you have to make sure once you stop the problem, you've got to assess the situation. This is not the time to place blame. This is not the time to point fingers. This is the time to assess the situation, make sure that everybody is safe, right? You always wanna make sure that your tenants are safe, anybody who's fixing it is safe. Make sure that the safety of all the people is first and foremost, because this could come back if you did not do this, that you made the place unsafe or uninhabitable and made the situation unsafe or uninhabitable, which is not something that you wanna do. After you do that and you make sure that the area is safe and secure, now you've got to start looking for solutions, right? Solutions are very big. Now this solution could take a couple days. It may not be on the spot. The way that you start working towards solutions is you start getting help from your team. Now your team may be the insurance company, could be the property management company, could be legal counsel of an attorney. There's a lot of people on your team. Could be the plumber, the HVAC person, could be the electrician. These are all people on your team. And I recommend that before you do anything, you consult with the team. You bring everybody in before you make a jump decision based on your emotions, right? So always make sure that before you do anything, you talk to the team, you get advice. Your job as the owner of the business is to make decisions based on the bet of the business, not your emotional, not the tenant's emotions, but the business's decision. So always use the team, get the team involved, and then make the decision moving forward. Always remember that it is a great idea to always ask for help. Always ask for advice and always try to get help from other people. There may be other investors. You can go online. You can talk to other investors on investor platforms if they have gone through this and what they have done, right? You get a lot of this during hurricanes, right? A lot of times during hurricanes, let's say the roof comes off during a hurricane and the house floods. Well, the flooding, yes, the house is flooding, but the cause is because you don't have a roof. So you don't stop the flooding until you fix the roof. So you always got to understand what the problem is, and then you start getting people involved. And normally it's probably going to be your insurance company whenever there's a disaster or an emergency. And you're going to probably call maybe one of the local authorities like the fire department, paramedics, someone like that. And then maybe it could be the gas company, but you're going to call all these experts. You jumping in to try to fix the situation on your own and you trying to stop a gas leak or something like that is probably not the best solution if you've never fixed a gas leak. So again, always know what your role is and make sure that when you know that role, that you stick to that. Somebody has to be the cool head. Somebody has to be in charge and somebody has to start directing people to do things. That is your job and that's what you want to make sure you're doing. So again, make sure that you know that, understand that when you have a rental property, yes, emergencies are going to happen. There are going to be disasters in your property. It's not something that we like to talk about, but it's the reality of the business we're in. Hopefully no one ever gets hurt, but the reality is you will have issues in your property and hopefully they're not catastrophic, but the reality is you have to prepare for them. You don't just hope that they never happen. You prepare for the disaster so if it does happen, you have your team ready to go so that when it does happen, you're prepared to take action and you have a plan of action. You're not doing it out of reaction. So I'm Steve Rozenberg. I hope this helps and understand that this is a business, treat it like a business and it will take care of you. Talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. And if this is relatable to you, leave me a comment. I'd like to hear from you.